And of course, it is going to be that rematch, but on different maps this time, at least the starting map. We are spawning into Waterfall, where in the bottom left-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the bottom left-hand corner, we have our blue Zerg player coming down all the way from the land of Poland, representing Berserker Esports. He is Artistori.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Waterfall ESL for the first time on this stream, we have representing Team GP, the South Korean Terran player himself. It is Control.
I have to wonder who picked this map. I believe Artistori has AC? Question mark?
I think so.
Just because he won the initial match they played earlier on. So I wonder if he has anything planned for Waterfall, or he just wanted to avoid the proxies of Control again.
Yeah, that's a good question, because Waterfall is, I believe, the map with the shortest rush distance in the new map pool. As you can see, there aren't very many bases to take at all. The rush distance by ground, it just goes straight through the center of the map. Very nice, like stylistically, you know, we have a nice river going through the center here, eventually leading to that waterfall, the namesake of this map.
Oh, that's why it's called that.
What do you know? Yeah, I'm curious as to why the Zerg player allowed this through the vetoes here, because it does mean that any kind of push, whether it's a 2-on-1 or even, I don't know, like that weird 3-Rex that we saw earlier from Control, it would hit that much harder.
Yeah, we definitely have to keep our eyes open to see what Artistori is preparing here, but at the same time, you know, Control, he's not going for that 2-on-1. He's not going for, you know, any of the aggressive plays he's displayed earlier tonight. Instead, he is playing this out standard. I think this is the first time he's actually built a Reaper.
Yeah, you're not wrong. For those who weren't here with us earlier today, this is a rematch, and Game 1, Control went for a 3-Rex opener into a mass bio push with the stim timing. Game 2, he went for a proxy 2-Rex. So as Jack was saying, first time, oh my god, almost gets a drone kill.
Close, but no cigar. And the Zerglings are have enough of a presence to chase this Reaper back. I say that, but Control obviously has some very nice control.
Yeah, he was thinking about it. He was thinking of maybe diving on in, but right now he's just dancing with the Queen, trying to get a snipe on that tumor. If at any moment he goes up and the tumor was thrown down, but he has to be a little bit careful. Oh, the Reaper almost goes down. He does get forced back, and Artistori is able to get his third up and running.
Yeah, not gonna have it delayed. You know, this isn't a EVP or anything.
Yeah, the Reaper wasn't there to deny it or anything like that, and back at home, Control, for the first time this entire series, opens up with the entire night, opens up with a 1-1-1.
Yeah, playing this out very safe and very standard, so it's not any, you know, big economic 3CCs before starports or anything. He is just gonna eventually get a cert base. He's building up the Hellion count, and I imagine gonna get a Liberator as well, because, you know, that's what he did previously. Viking first, okay.
Yeah, Viking first here. There wasn't like a fast tech lab for a quick add-on switch or anything like that for fast Banshees. So yeah, for the first time tonight, we are going to be able to see his Hellion control to see if he's going to be able to keep this creep at bay. If at any moment the Queens are out of position, the Hellions can dive in and maybe roast the Mineral Lion. Artistori has to be on his toes.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit tricky here with only 2 Hellions and a Reaper, but you know, you want to be active with them regardless. You never know if you have an opportunity to take out a creep tumor before it really gets before that creep really gets established.
Oh yeah, whether it's creep, whether it's maybe a stray queen, some lings, some drones as well. He's still sharking around for it. Meanwhile, the Overlord is looking to dive on in. Oh, so far it does actually avoid the Viking.
Yeah, the Marines have to start shooting at this Overlord instead of Vikings. That's, oh man. And the Viking just flies back. Thanks. You guys got it covered, right?
Exclamation mark for nada, this Viking, mate. The Viking had one job, and to be fair, could still find a little bit more damage, could find some other stray Overlords, but for the time being, hasn't really paid for itself, hasn't really done much of anything. Hellions still poking and prodding, but the Queens are exactly where they need to be, have been able to keep up, have been able to keep this creep spreading.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Artistori doesn't want to take, you know, any major risks and, you know, throw away all of his active creep tumors. And we did talk about this map having a very short rush distance, but at the same time, it's also kind of a thin map in a way. It doesn't take that long for queens to, cycle around and rotate around the bases, provided this creep.
What we will say is that for this one rotation, the queens were a little bit late, so a lot of creep was cleaned up. They're forced to respread those creep tumors. At the same time, Liberator is trying to sneak in towards the natural base, but we already have a Spore in position and a queen. Liberator shouldn't do too much at all. Oh my god.
Shouldn't live either, yeah. It's a lot of damage, or a lot of DPS, I should say, from one Spore and one queen.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit unfortunate there for Control. His first Liberator does nothing at all. But again, he's transitioning behind this, throwing down more of these Raxes. Already has his third TC on the way. As long as he doesn't lose these Hellions, he's okay.
Yeah, he's shaving off the Link count a little bit, and I mean, that's fine right now for Artistori. And I do appreciate that Artistori isn't, taking any massive risks to try to get a full surround of Hellions. Links are expendable, but if you lose too many of them, you're opening yourself up and leaving yourself vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be very careful with how you control those Lings. Meanwhile, the queens get caught off creep. At least some of them do.
The pathing! Oh no! Thankfully, there were a couple of queens still in position by this third base. A very quick reaction to pull the drones. So Artistori isn't going to be losing too much here. But still, it kind of feels bad.
Yeah, unfortunately the queens weren't able to keep up in the end. 5 drones go down, but I think that's okay. 5 drones for all those Hellions. I think Artistori, that could have been a lot worse for our Zerg player. He now doesn't have to worry about those Hellions anymore. He can now spread that creep freely and now drone freely.
Yeah, Artistori definitely got the much better end of that deal. The worst thing that really happened to Artistori there is, maybe a little bit of pride, going down, these queens, why? The pathing. Yeah, but overall, much better outcome for our blue Zerg player than a red Terran player.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you have to get used to on these new maps, like the weird pathing here, the weird cliff face as well, the potential tank positionings. Meanwhile, we do see the first double jump moving out here for Control. He was able to keep that creep at bay a little bit, but it is here in position to help protect this 5th base. Control forced to just scan and clear up as much of it as he can.
And he's getting a lot of active creep tumors, so yeah, that's even more annoying for Artistori. Gonna have to bring the queens around once again. Yeah, and since he's bringing the queens around, they're not in the base.
Yeah, they are forced to respread here in the center. Meanwhile, the double drop does rotate around towards that southern 5th base, but the Ling Bane is here in position in a couple of seconds. Baneling's speed is going to finish up, and speaking of, Banelings are hitting the 3rd.
Yeah, before they have speed, so won't really be able to kill too many SCVs, but they get a couple of Marines, and they weaken these SCVs for later on.
Yeah, I almost want
these Lings slip in.
Exactly, I was about to say, I don't want a Bane run by, I just want a Ling run by follow up, and that's exactly what he does. He does get into the middle line. Sure, there's a tank in position, but the friendly fire!
The friendly fire plus all of the weakened SCVs. This mineral line is not long for this world. Control lost 11 SCVs. I feel like he might have lost more than that, actually.
Yeah,
you can never really tell because of friendly fire.
Exactly. Meanwhile, we do have this drop here towards the north. Almost gets caught out by the Ling Bane. He's going to try and head towards that mineral line, but maybe we have 3 Spore. Oh my god. Artistori has so many Spores in position.
That drop and that Viking get taken out before any damage can get dealt. I was really, I was thinking that Artistori was looking a little bit more shaky this game. I thought Control was looking a lot better this game. It turns out, I had nothing to worry about for Artistori.
Oh, exactly. Meanwhile, another Baneling run by does connect with those Marines. Another one being set up right behind that as well. Artistori, he is relentless with these run bys, and Control is slipping behind, falling behind a little bit when it comes to getting these walls up and running.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a massive ramp, or such a wide ramp, I should say. Takes a lot of buildings to fill that up. Control, his attention was elsewhere. And these Banelings were able to slip in. The tank is sieged outside the natural. No! It needs to be sieged by the 3rd.
Yeah, the tank's not where they need to be. At the same time, the main army was trying to push on forward, but the army of Artistori was ready and waiting. The Ling Bane already in position. Control hasn't been able to deal any counter damage whatsoever. Not without trying, though, but again, like Artistori, because of his early game, because it was so good, he's already maxed. He's already everywhere he needs to be.
Yeah, I really love Control's multi-prong. I really love how well he's able to snipe these Banelings over and over again. But I think the defensive play of Artistori far outweighs the aggression of Control.
Exactly, especially when the momentum is just slipping away from Control here as he just loses worker after worker. Another bailing run by being set up. This time Control does have a tank covering that wall, and the wall is indeed a wall this time, so bailings are going to have to be wasted to bust down those depots. So Control now has, his third up and running. He can now think about expanding and taking a fourth base, but Artistori, he's already maxed and he's already looking to transition out of just pure Ling Bane.
Yeah, Hive is on the way now, as well as of the Hydralisk upgrades coming down. He might not even need to get a Lurker then, honestly. You can just get a Viper and 3-3, and if some Vipers 3-3, he can just stick on Hydraling Bane.
Yeah, you're not wrong, It wouldn't be necessary for him to go into those Lurkers, but I'm sure he wants to. We saw how well they worked for him last time. Meanwhile, finally, these Morphing and Banelings are caught out by Control, forced to unsiege or forced to back off. Ooh, another run by being set up there.
Oh yeah, Changeling. The game belongs. Around all the Zerglings say, yeah!
Everything is fine here, Control. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, Control is trying to push on out. Meanwhile, Ling Run by comes in and he catches the tank.
There's so much reinforcements, so many reinforcements are being kept back at home right now. Control has a lot of tanks, actually. But I think our story does have more Lingbane Hydra, where that came from. He split up, though.
Well, I mean, he just doesn't have to fight those tanks. He just goes for a counterattack. Instead, he goes into the mineral line. 11 workers go down. This third base is completely forfeit. Control does get a kill on the 6th base, but that was his 6th base, and he just lost his 3rd and 4th.
Yeah. And 5th. Well, he didn't have a 5th, but he might as well have lost his 5th alongside all of that.
Yeah, pretty
GG
much.
is called. And our story shows a very similar story to when they played the last time.
Very well played there by Artistori. Control wasn't looking too bad in the beginning, but again, we've just seen it time and time again from Artistori. Those Baneling run-bys, they just somehow, some way, always deal some damage. And Control, not quite always paying attention to those run-bys. Whether it's just paying attention to the run-bys or even just getting his walls up and running. Maybe his tank positioning leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, as much as I want to say, these are new maps, so, it's not ingrained like it usually is after you've started getting familiar with maps. You're familiar with a map pool. You can think, all right, at this point, I need to build these buildings at this part of the map, and that does carry over a little bit as the maps continue, but, there's always that little brief period in between where, you're still kind of jogging that instinct a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, what I will say is that because we're seeing these players play over and over and over again, I imagine Control is going to be a little bit more aware of this, of these run-bys and of protecting his mineral lines and specifically his 3rd base. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point, and I was starting to think about it a little. If you're Control in this sort of scenario, what are you thinking of doing from here on out? Because he's played 3 games where he was the aggressor and was never really able to break through the defenses of Artistori. But at the same time, you don't really want to defend too hard in a TVZ because then your Zerg opponent will, run away with the economy. So yeah, it's a little bit of a pickle for him.
Yeah, it really is, and maybe on a bit of a slightly larger map, maybe you can have a little bit more success. We'll see.
We shall see indeed, as we load into a familiar map this time, Inside and Out. That's the name of the map. I don't mean we're familiar with the map in and out. As in the top right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner, we have a blue Terran player coming down all the way from the land of Korea, now here in Valencia. That's one hell of a flight. Representing Team GP, he is Control.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Inside and Out ESL, we have the Polish Zerg player himself representing Berserker Esports, currently leading this series 1-0. It is Artistori.
I think I might have figured out the answer to the question I posed just now. They're like, if I know Korean Terran players, I know that usually, if you're in a scenario where you're up against a Zerg player who has some very effective defensive play, what you want to do is attack even harder.
You double down, mate. You go for the
Double
proxies.
down, yeah. You commit. You know, attack, but better this time. That's usually the way it goes. I feel with a lot of Korean Terran players.
Exactly, that's all you need to do, Kappa. But we'll see. So far, everything looking pretty standard from the side of Control this time. No weird proxies. We do see Artistori with his Overlord pathing looking for anything crazy going on, and I don't blame him because he has been proxy 2-raxed already today by Control, so he wants to be careful. He wants to make sure he has eyes everywhere on his side of the map. And Control, oh my god, going for a second rax.
Yeah. He's not even hiding it.
He's not.
Like you normally... Yeah, so is this actually going to be a 2-on-1? We'll see. Well, I feel like if it was going to be a 2-on-1, he would get the factory and then the second rax.
I'm feeling... Are we going to see another third rax here like we saw earlier today? I'm curious, especially because, okay, we have the reactor here from this rax. I love... Like, this is so greedy. Reactor first, by the way. There was no safety marine. There was no safety reaper.
Yeah. Alright, Control. He's at 150 minerals now. About 200 minerals. Okay, we're just waiting a little while.
Meanwhile, the Overlords are getting in position here to go slip into that main base from Artistori. Again, he is none the wiser about what is going on. He has recognized, hold on, there's no Reaper. Let me send my Ling across the map to see what is going on. There should be Marines. Either that or the Reaper stayed at home to defend against like a pool first or something. But with this, he will confirm, okay, you did skip that Reaper.
Stim is going to be the answer here from Control. And only after starting that research is he getting that factory.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit perplexed here.
I'm feeling a bit of a Hellbat push with a Stim timing is what we'll see how many Hellions he ends up getting here with this.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah. We'll keep our eyes out for an armory being thrown down. Meanwhile, Artistori, yeah, he's getting a lot of links. He's realized, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You spent the entire early game not building any defenses. I'm just gonna see what I can get done.
Exactly, because there are no Hellions, there are no tanks, there are no Widowmines. This, like, Ling Flood, he's running up behind this, is not all in, but these things are gonna get a lot of damage. The wall is not a wall. He's gonna force Control to pick up and just evacuate his natural.
Yeah, thankfully, at the very least, Control is going to be able to hug a wall. He's got the boys here to provide a little bit of a buffer, but you really want to be losing SCVs this early on.
Yeah, like, so...
Oh, he hasn't lost any.
Yeah, I mean, the Control has been pretty good here from our Korean Terran. I know, I see what I did there. But that was also a lot of lost mining time, so you could argue that it's worth it, especially in the early game like this, where every SCV matters that much more, to be stuck on one base economy for that long. Like, this is not what we want to be seeing here.
Yeah, but now that he has weathered the initial swarm, things are looking fine. This is a 2-on-1 coming out from Control, but yeah, he got to this. He took a bit of a different journey to get to this destination.
Yeah, a very interesting journey at that. We did see that he did make the reactor on the factory, but it was just for that swap. As you were saying, he's going to be hitting very quickly with these two medevacs. Going to be headed across the map at around the 5-minute mark. Artistori has to make sure he has enough Lings at home to defend. He has been droning up from here, and he should recognize what he's up against. He did confirm the marine count, so he knows about the additional Raxes, but he needs to start making units, and soon.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a whole lot. We're talking about Inside Out. It's kind of a large map, but it's horizontally large. Yeah, it's a very straightforward. It has a very straightforward rush distance vertically, and especially if you can get there by air.
Yeah, I'm really concerned because we've just been seeing nothing but drones so far. Finally, Artistori is making a handful of Lings. Like, he has been so greedy with his droning. Is he even going to be punished? That's what I'm curious about, because Control is coming on in. He's kind of taking his time. He's giving Artistori a lot of time to make more Lings.
Yeah, I felt like he was being a little bit indecisive there, but now he has realized I'm just going to break straight through in a straight line here. I'm going to be rotating too much. Actually, he is playing it out safe, which
Yeah.
I don't think he should right now. I mean, I can't blame him for wanting to play it out safe. You know, again,
Mm.
he just played 3 games against Artistori where Artistori defended perfectly, pretty much. But yeah, this is the one time where it would actually pay off for him to, you know, be as aggressive as he was previously
Yeah,
with his initial push.
I do think that there was a window here, that if he had unloaded as soon as possible, and if he had gone on to creep as soon as possible, he probably would have been able to get some queens. At least some queens, maybe even more, just because of how greedy Artistori was being. But because of how tentative he was, Artistori, he got away with all those drones earlier on. He's got his 4th base up and running. He's now making lings, now making banelings. Yeah, like the window came and went.
Yeah. It has pretty much been shattered open. Well, no, shattered close. But at the same time, at the very least, you could say Control this time has kept his forces alive. He's pretty much even, slightly ahead in army supply against Artistori. So this follow-up push has a much higher likelihood of actually succeeding than, you know, in the previous games.
Oh, it does. So far, the double drop doesn't get too much damage done. Oh my god, he goes onto the queens! The medevac's get targeted down!
That's questionable, to say the least. I was just saying, Light. I was just talking about how he kept most of his push alive.
I don't know if he's going to be able to escape this dead space, by the way. With this medevac, we'll see he's at less than half HP. At the same time, we have a little bit of a Bane run by being set up here towards that 3rd base. And I 100% agree. It's so unfortunate. Control just didn't know the location of those queens. He just didn't know. He didn't know where they were. He blindly went towards the 4th base, and there just happened to be a mass amount of queens waiting for him. That was very unlucky. Very unlucky.
Yeah, without a doubt. And now, I mean, he's still ahead in the army supply. He is actually a little bit behind when it comes to the upgrades. He's going to get +1 soon, but +1 armor is lagging behind a little bit. So, you know, he can do something if he wants to push out soon, but yeah, it's a lot weaker than it would have otherwise. And, you know, I think Control, he kind of knows that. He knows that he should just work on the 2nd stage of his plan. Very good split right at the end there.
Yeah, exactly. It could have been a lot worse for Artistori. Meanwhile, at the same time, that drop is still chilling in between the bases. He can't even go north because that's where the line of spores are as well. Double drop towards the south. Does get met by Ling Bane. He doesn't break on through. Artistori, he's getting his 5th base up and running. And interestingly enough, Artistori isn't staying on Ling Bane for too much longer. Unlike the previous games, he is rushing into the Hydrogen and rushing into the Infestation Pit.
Yeah, Artistori, you can definitely tell he's not one to Ling Bane straight in the hive. He's not one to rush into Ultralisk or anything like that. He likes to have a very, you know, sophisticated army.
Yeah, so he's not going to be on Ling Bane, or he shouldn't be on Ling Bane for too much longer. We'll see. Meanwhile, the double drop is trying to sneak on in towards the bases. The tank positioning is not too bad here outside the 5th.
Yeah, it's a really safe anchor point, you know, because there are no range units right now for Artistori. Those tanks can't really be punished. Ooh, and the drops are finally being effective.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. At the same time, the Marine Army here for Control rushed on forward, and it looks like it got cleaned up. Artistori going for a mass counterattack, but there are reinforcements at home. The Ling run by does nothing, and that drop gets cleaned up. I was about to say maybe going to be dealing some more damage in the main base, but only gets 7 drones.
Yeah, at this stage of the game, it's not that much. It's, you know, damage that Artistori can very easily recuperate. But I think it's worth pointing out that unlike the previous game, in this series, Control really hasn't taken any economic damage so far. His macro has been a lot more on point this time.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important to point out, is that one game that he was able to take, he was much better at keeping up with all those run-bys and keeping his economy up and running and in check. So Control, he is keeping up in the supply.
Yeah, I mean, losing a couple of Marines here and there, but he's not too far behind when it comes to the army supply. And, of course, more often than not, Terran supply is a little bit more valuable than Zerg supply.
Yeah, it usually is, but that's gonna change soon because the Hive is on the way. Hydra upgrades are on the way as well, or just finished up even. So Artistori is getting ready for those lurkers, and we saw how well they worked out for him last time. Control, though, is also transitioning into both Ghost and Lib production pretty soon as well.
Yeah, both players really setting up for their late game compositions, but of course, Control is going to get there a little bit sooner, so if he can take advantage of that and break Artistori before that high finishes up, before Vipers are out, before Lurkers or anything like that. He has a real good shot, but he has a real good shot of taking us to the ace match.
He really does. Meanwhile, we have a massive run by here just as Control moves out, and unfortunately, the tanks were left completely exposed. The base is going to be going down, and honestly, Artistori, he could even keep on going and maybe get on top of all these tanks. Control, ooh, thought about maybe turning around.
Yeah, but he does not waver at all. Look at all of these tanks here in the front line, and then also back home defensively. That entire Baneling count got blown out of the, I almost said water, but we're not in another water map. And just like that, Control, he has the momentum in his push. He's kind of losing a little bit in the home front, but it doesn't matter that much in the end. This is base trait territory now, and I much prefer Control's army with all these tanks.
Oh, exactly. But you know what? Banelings are on the way. The tanks were unsieged, and 2 tanks are going to be going down. He only has 2 remaining. One of them was left in the back line. The third base is going down here for Control, and he is running out of steam. He only has a handful of Marines left.
Yeah, I thought I liked Control's army a little bit more, but I should have realized that it was split up a lot like this.
Yeah, like, even though the supplies, the army supplies specifically, are pretty close, half of that supply is at home for Control, unfortunately, so he's forced to turn around. He doesn't have any more staying power here. He has to try and recover whatever he can here. At the third, he's expanding, taking his fourth once again, but Artistori just doesn't let up. Ooh, but maybe he should, because he runs into the army.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Control was able to kill 1 hatchery, Artistori was able to kill 1 CC, and the majority of Control's workers.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, the Ling Bane is going to dive on top of that army. The tanks, they siege up, but a little bit too late. The army of Control, the split was pretty good when it comes to the buyer, and he still has a handful of tanks remaining here. He's going to keep on pushing forward. He is, it feels almost all in here, like he has to try and make something happen, but again, he was unsieged.
Yeah, it feels all in because it is all in. Control, he does have the upgrade advantage, and once again, his army control and his micro and splitting is fantastic. But at the end of the day, he just does not have the numbers on his side. GG is called. Artistori will take that series 2-0 once again, and will be the second player advancing